The last team to win back-to-back Stanley Cups were the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2016 and 2017. We've had 3 first-time Stanley Cup winners since then, including last year's champion, the Florida Panthers. Although this roster on paper makes Florida look prime for another deep run, are they overrated? They come into this year's postseason very hobbled, and I say that because they've struggled to field a complete roster since March 1st. Can they recreate the magic from last postseason? 6 players had 15 or more points. And does Bobrovsky have 16 wins and a 2-3 goals against in him for another postseason run? I'm not sure he does. That's one team down, 15 more to go. Let's look at every single team in this year's NHL playoffs. Connor Hellebuyck is the 3rd goalie in NHL history to lead all 4 major goalie stat categories in the regular season. That being save percentage, goals against average, wins, and shutouts. The other 2 to do so, Jacques Plante in 1959 and Bernie Parent in 1974. Both of those goalies ended up leading their teams to Stanley Cup victories. This seems like the best opportunity the Winnipeg Jets have had to clinch their first Stanley Cup berth in franchise history. Amongst their star goalie having an MVP caliber season, they own a top 5 power play and the most balanced roster in the playoffs. However, will their road through the Western Conference be too tough yet again? The Washington Capitals made it to the playoffs last year with the worst goal differential in 30 years, -37. After the additions of Pierre-Luc Dubois, Jacob Chychrun, Matt Waugh, and Logan Thompson, the Capitals have played their way to their first Metropolitan Division title since 2020, a 50-plus win season, and a goal differential above +60. And on top of all that, their franchise star became the greatest goal scorer in NHL history. But have the Capitals hit on too many positives? Have things gone too well so far? Meaning, can their fortune extend another 2 months through an entire postseason run? The Dallas Stars are the 4th team in the last 25 years to lose back-to-back Western Conference Finals. Vegas did it in 2020 and 2021, and went on to win a Stanley Cup 2 years later in 2023. The Sharks did it in 2010 and 2011, never ended up winning shit. And the Avalanche did it in 1999 and 2000, but went on to win a Stanley Cup the following year in 2001. Along with Winnipeg, I'd say Dallas has the most complete roster top to bottom. You've got the goalie, you've got 3 incredible forward lines, and you've got the best penalty killer in the NHL and a workhorse defenseman. But why does it feel like watching this team throughout the entire regular season, there's just something that doesn't seem right? Something that makes this team too difficult to pick your Stanley Cup champion. One of the best expansion teams in the history of sports, making the postseason for the 5th time in the team's 6-year history. The Golden Knights have amassed 100 regular season points for the 2nd time in their team's history. And the only other time they did it was in 2021 when they won the Stanley Cup. Jack Eichel by far having the best season of his career, an MVP caliber type season. He'll try to roll that momentum into this year's playoffs as Vegas tries to avoid a 2nd straight first-round exit. And to do that, they'll have to play a lot better at home after losing 2 out of 3 to Dallas at T-Mobile Arena last postseason. They have the 4th best home record in the NHL, so let's see if they can extend that success into the playoffs this year. The last time the Detroit Red Wings and Boston Bruins didn't make the playoffs was in 1967, the last time the Leafs won the Cup. And the last time the Toronto Maple Leafs made the playoffs in 9 straight seasons was also in 1967, which is something they've done again this year. So if there was any year for Leafs fans to say this is our year, there's actual basis for it instead of it being super bias driven. And the Leafs do have a different look this year, starting with a new head coach in Craig Berube who has the Stanley Cup pedigree, and then a defensive unit built for a deep playoff run anchored by Chris Tanev, Morgan Rielly, Brandon Carlo, Jake McCabe, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. That group exudes defense first, toughness, and experience. You'd have to think this is the most confident Leafs fans have been in their defensive unit and goaltending heading into a playoffs in a long time. But can the top talent deliver with all the right pieces around them? No team in the NHL has had a bigger roster overhaul than the Colorado Avalanche this year. It started with the goalies, acquiring Scott Wedgwood and Mackenzie Blackwood, then trading Mikko Rantanen away for Martin Necas, and then trading for Ryan Lindgren, Charlie Coyle, and Brock Nelson all before the trade deadline. Completely revitalizing this roster and giving them the chance to compete for yet another Stanley Cup. And with Nathan MacKinnon, Martin Necas, Cale Makar, and a depth forward like Miles Wood, this team has unmatchable speed. So with the return of Gabriel Landeskog to the lineup, does this Colorado Avalanche team have what it takes to navigate through the Western Conference and make it to yet another Stanley Cup Finals? The best home team in the NHL this season will draw the same first-round matchup for the 4th straight year, the Edmonton Oilers. After losing all 3 of those prior series matchups, is this the year the Kings can get it done? Anze Kopitar having another season straight out of the fountain of youth with his 4th straight season with 40-plus assists. And his line mate Adrian Kempe has put together his 3rd 30-plus goal campaign. This team has the most balanced roster when you look at it in terms of Stanley Cup experience and young talent. You have Kopitar, Doughty, Trevor Lewis, Darcy Kemper, and Joel Edmondson, all past Cup champions, Deneau and Fogle, who have both Stanley Cup finals under their belts, and then the young talent comes in bunches, with Kempe, Fiala, Quentin Byfield, Alex Laferriere, Trevor Moore, Brant Clark, and Jordan Spence. I truly think this is one of the more underrated teams heading into the postseason this year. The Tampa Bay Lightning are the only team in the NHL playoffs with a top 5 power play and a top 10 penalty kill. They service their need in forward depth by adding Oliver Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde at the NHL trade deadline. Nikita Kucherov has now won back-to-back Art Ross trophies, leading the NHL in points in consecutive seasons. But will he get rewarded for his 2nd Hart Trophy of his career? With Stanley Cup champion experience in Jake Gensel, Braden Point, Victor Hedman, Ryan McDonough, and Andrei Vasilevsky, can the Lightning win their 3rd Stanley Cup in 6 years? A whirlwind of a year for the Carolina Hurricanes. After trading for Mikko Rantanen before the trade deadline, Carolina was forced to move Rantanen less than a month after trading for him since they couldn't come to terms on a long-term extension, leaving them with Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven, and a number of draft picks. And let's not forget about their latest addition from the KHL, Alexander Nikishin, who's had 3 straight 40-point seasons as a defenseman. Carolina's style is simple: dominate the shot attempt share and forecheck your ass off. It's worked well in the regular season for years now, but fans are eager for it to translate into a deep postseason run. Can the Edmonton Oilers do what the Florida Panthers accomplished last year and win a Stanley Cup after losing in the Cup Finals the year before? I'm going to say a definite no. For one, this team got worse, losing Warren Fogle, Dylan Holloway, Philip Broberg, and Ryan McLeod, and thinking they can replace those guys with Ty Emberson, Jeff Skinner, Vasily Podkolzin, and Victor Arvidsson. And then all the injuries they've dealt with over the last month of the regular season: Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Trent Frederick, Jake Wallman, Matthias Ekholm, John Klingberg, and Stuart Skinner. And now they match up against the best home team in the NHL, a team they've already beaten 3 straight years in the playoffs. Does what I just said want to make you put any faith in the Edmonton Oilers this postseason? Because I'm more leaning in the direction that this Edmonton Oilers team will have an early playoff exit this year. Kirill Kaprizov was having an MVP caliber season before getting hurt and missing 41 games. But despite missing Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek for a majority of the year, the Wild still managed to finish in a playoff spot, thanks in big part to Matt Boldy's first 70-point season and Marco Rossi's first 60-point season. While goaltending also had a huge help in clinching a playoff spot, the Wild finished with the 7th best team save percentage in the regular season. With Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek bringing this team back to full strength, are the Wild a tougher first-round opponent than what's expected of a wildcard team? For the first time since 2017, the Ottawa Senators are returning to the postseason, with the young core of Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, Jake Sanderson, and even Thomas Chabot playing in their first postseason together. However, the playoff inexperience might be apparent, especially considering the Sens had the 5th most defensive zone giveaways this regular season. They are a scrappy team with the best defensive zone faceoff percentage heading into the playoffs at 54%, but I truly think this team will go as far as Linus Ullmark can take them. They finally forked up the cash for a goalie this offseason, and look what happened. They made the playoffs. So let's see how much that investment is actually worth in the playoffs. 12 straight wins in the last month of the regular season to clinch a playoff spot is Cinderella-esque. The last time the St. Louis Blues won the Stanley Cup was in 2019, and they had 23 wins from February 1st to the end of that regular season, and this year the Blues had 21 wins from February 1st to the end of this regular season to sneak into the playoffs. Robert Thomas will be a key contributor for the Blues this postseason after yet another productive regular season. Thomas is now top 10 all-time in assists in Blues franchise history with over 285. If the Blues want any chance at upsetting their first-round opponent, Jordan Binnington will have to be in peak form like he has been. Since the Four Nations tournament, Jordan Binnington has 12 wins, a .907 save percentage, and a .231 goals against average. Jim Montgomery doesn't have the greatest playoff record, but does that change as an underdog this postseason? Since March 4th, the Devils have 8 wins, which is the 10th fewest in the league over that span. And without Jack Hughes for the postseason, I can't say the Devils are getting a ton of love. This team was a top 5 defensive team when fully healthy, but without Hughes and Hamilton for the last month and a half of the regular season, the Devils were a bottom 10 team at even strength, allowing 3.12 goals against per 60. One positive this season that the Devils can take away is their goaltending. Last season, New Jersey had the third worst team save percentage in the league, but with the help of Jacob Markstrom and Jake Allen this year, they finished the regular season with a top 10 team save percentage. How far will Sheldon Keefe take the Devils on his first postseason run with a new team? Maybe the most exciting storyline this playoffs and the true Cinderella, the Montreal Canadiens. A team that was in second to last, only 1 point ahead of the Chicago Blackhawks, 2 months and 23 games into the season. But since December 15th, the Canadiens have the 9th most points in the NHL, more than Carolina, LA, Edmonton, and last year's Stanley Cup champion, Florida Panthers. Calder Trophy favorite Lane Hutson had a rookie record-setting season. Hutson broke Chris Chelios' Montreal Canadiens rookie assist record, and if that wasn't enough, we saw the revival of Patrick Laine's career even after a horrible preseason injury. And lastly, the introduction to Montreal's top prospect, Ivan Demidov, leaving the KHL to join the Montreal Canadiens for the final games of the regular season and into the playoffs. With the Capitals' injuries, goaltending issues, and attention maybe elsewhere, do the Habs have a shot at a first-round upset? All right, there you have it, all 16 teams in this year's NHL playoffs. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you like these kind of videos, be sure to comment below, and I'll see you guys next time.